Our goal is to build the absolute best endurance products in the world. These athletes give us the input they need to make sure they can compete with the best people out there. That's how we build our products. The primary thing OptygenHP does is it modulates your stress. When you modulate your stress, you improve oxygen transfer, you reduce your lactic acid buildup, you improve your recovery and performance, you have a better mood, sleep better at night, you burn fat more efficiently, meaning you spare muscle, and you actually improve your sex drive as well. And I'll get into this a little bit so you clearly understand what happens. There are actually over 40 clinical studies supporting the use of Optygen and OptygenHP. One study done by Dr. Andrew Creer looked at Optygen with some cross-country runners over an 8-week period. And these are collegiate runners, healthy male runners, running 8 weeks, running about 100 kilometers a week over an 8-week period. After 8 weeks, the group on Optygen reduced their cortisol levels by 26%, improved their cortisol to testosterone ratio by 41%. This is really significant in their ability to modulate stress. Again, if you don't modulate your adrenal response, your stress, your training suffers, your recovery suffers. It's that cortisol, that stress hormone, that's really key here. And that stress hormone is really critical in your training, in that as you're training, you have stress from the training. You also get stress from everyday life. You get stress from not sleeping well at night. You get stress from your work, maybe even your kids and your schedule. All that stress adds up in an athlete. And an athlete may start training 5-6 hours a week, add that stress to their life stress, and all of a sudden they're overstressed. An athlete doesn't have to train 20-30 hours a week to be overstressed. They can be overstressed with just a few hours of training a week. It's critical for an athlete to modulate that stress, to keep that stress within a healthy range, to be able to get any improvements in their training. So a product like Optygen helps bring that stress response, specifically that cortisol, back down to a healthy range. And when your cortisol is at a healthy range, you're able to improve all those secondary parameters that I was talking about earlier. You improve your performance, you improve your lactate threshold, you improve your VO2 max. All those things improve when your cortisol is within a healthy range. So this product is critical for that. And as you can imagine, it's important for almost any athlete out there training that's really trying to get the most out of their training.
So does there seem to be a lag time? Do you need to get on a bottle before you start to see a VO2 change, or is it like right away? How quick is the response?
Typically, and everybody's a little bit different, but normally you'll start to feel it in about a week, some maybe about 2 weeks. So you do have to be on the product for a little time before you start noticing the benefits. And I'll get into exactly how to use the product. Yeah, question?
How effective would Optygen be for a sport that's more anaerobic? Like, I work with a lot of hockey players, and obviously, like, recovery time is really important for that type of sport, but it's not necessarily an endurance type of sport. But I'm thinking like over a 3-game weekend, or a 3-day weekend where you're playing 2 or 3 games a day, that could possibly be very beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely right. Really, it's beneficial for anyone that is overstressed. Anyone that has too much stress. And as trainers, you can see the people that are overstressed. If you have an ability to measure their cortisol, it's not a difficult test. Their doctors can measure their cortisol levels. Have them do that. And if their cortisol levels are elevated, it's a great product for anyone doing any kind of training that's overstressed. So yes, anaerobic, anything to that nature, yeah.
Just so you know, I started taking mine on Monday when I played hockey Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And Thursday morning is usually the hardest skate, you know, to play with the guys. And I felt like I would sit on the bench for a shorter amount of time and I could be ready to go faster.
Yeah.
When I'm on Optygen, I feel like I can get up to a high heart rate, recover very quickly, and like immediately be ready to go. And I did notice a difference.
Do you stay on it indefinitely, or is it something where you're like prepping for a peak event and then get off of it afterwards?
Give me one more slide and I'll get to the recommendations exactly how to use it. And if I could, let me get into just another clinical study that was done on Optygen. Showed that over an 8-week period, again, using collegiate runners, over an 8-week period, there was 42% improvement to time to onset of lactate threshold. This is critical for hockey. Hockey is a very anaerobic sport. There's a lot of sprinting there. If you can delay that lactate threshold significantly, you're going to be able to sprint better consecutively. So a product like this certainly works for any high lactate type activities. So we have two Optogen products. We have an OptygenHP and we have an Optogen product. The OptygenHP has a couple benefits over the regular Optogen product. It has a more potent rhodiola extract. This is one of the key herbs in there that improves your ability to handle stress. So there's 3 times more rosavins, which is the active ingredient in rhodiola. There's 3 times more of that in OptygenHP over the regular Optogen formula. This product also has beta-alanine. And beta-alanine has some great anaerobic, again, lactate threshold type benefits. It increases your carnosine levels. And carnosine is your limiting factor in your lactate threshold. So the more carnosine you have in your body, the higher lactate threshold you can go. So the bottom line is it improves your lactate threshold. And there's a lot of great clinical studies done on beta-alanine. So beta-alanine and a more potent rhodiola is found in the OptygenHP over the regular Optogen formula. How best to use Optogen? It is a training supplement. Don't make the mistake of thinking, I have a race next weekend, I'm going to get on Optogen. That's not the right way to use the product. The right way to use the product is looking at your training, looking at a training block. Say the next 8 weeks I'm going to be training really hard because I have an event. It's during that 8 weeks that you're going to improve your training, and it's during that time that you want to be on the product. So pick your heavy training blocks. For some people, it might be 2 months leading up to an event. For others, they're going to start training hard in February, and they're not going to stop training hard till December. So for those people, they should be on it the whole time. Look at when are these people stressed, when are they training really, really hard, and they should be on that product during that whole time. Others train really hard for 2 months, have an event, take a week off, and if they're doing that, consider going off during that week off and then starting again for the next training block. So you can cycle with the product on, off. But if you're stressed and training really hard for 10 months straight, stay on it for 10 months straight.
Is there a loading phase that you go through initially, or kind of like creatine, something you do with that, or is it just you take the pill and it starts working?
Yeah. Optogen, we have a loading phase that we recommend. Optogen is typically 3 capsules a day every single day, but we load by taking 6 capsules every day for the first week. OptygenHP, because of the potency, some of the other ingredients in there, we don't recommend a loading phase. It's 4 capsules a day, every single day, during heavy training blocks. Now, even if you take a single day off, say I'm resting Sunday, you still take the product on Sunday. It's when you have off weeks or off months that you want to be off the product.
With meals, without meals, just the pills by themselves?
Not so important. Typically with a meal is better. It helps the absorption, but not critical. Yeah.
I notice all your stuff is geared toward like endurance athletes, a lot of people I work with, and myself not really focused really on endurance as far as triathlons or biking. So how much benefit is it going to give to like bodybuilders, and other anaerobic sports, such as hockey, as far as building muscle and stuff like that? So, I mean, is it, a
product like Optogen, again, anyone that is stressed, even hockey players, bodybuilders, if your cortisol is elevated, you don't go into an anabolic state. If your cortisol is elevated, you burn fat and you burn your muscle, or excuse me, you store fat and you burn your muscle if your cortisol is elevated. So if building muscle is key, you have to have a cortisol within a healthy range to assure that you're building muscle. So for that group, Optogen can be very, very beneficial. Also because of the beta-alanine in there, beta-alanine, as you know, improves your lactate threshold. And even in short sprints, or even if you're doing 10 or 12 reps of squats or something to that nature, you're building lactic acid. If you can delay that by a couple reps, you have now significantly improved that person's ability to train. So this product really can work for any athlete out there that has stress. Some of the other products are certainly more geared towards specifically endurance, but there is an application for almost anybody, and I can go into each one of those. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah. Just can you actually hit on what a rhodiola extract does? Because I know I did a paper in college, but I can't remember.
Rhodiola extract is an adaptogenic herb. It is actually out of Tibet. The original research on rhodiola, it's actually an interesting herb. The Sherpas, the Tibetan Sherpas that climb Mount Everest, claim they make a tea out of rhodiola and cordyceps, both of those, and they claim it's this tea that allows me to go to the top of Mount Everest without oxygen. And some people looked at them like, yeah, you guys are kind of crazy, but it led researchers to test rhodiola, and the original research on rhodiola was on pulmonary edema in mountain climbers. And it reduced the effects of mountain sickness. And mountain sickness is brought on by low oxygen levels, or actually low partial pressure of the oxygen, which is very similar to what athletes do when they're training very, very hard. I mean, you get to a point where your body's oxygen demand can't keep up with its supply. Very, very similar to pulmonary edema or what happens when you're climbing mountains. So a lot of the later research looked at what these adaptogenic herbs did for athletes, and essentially what it does is it normalizes body functions. And there's a lot of different research studies trying to figure out exactly what it did, and in the end, it points to cortisol. You are very, very stressed when you climb Mount Everest because of environmental factors like low oxygen and obviously the physical demands. You're very, very stressed when you train very, very hard, and what your body does is it drives cortisol through the roof. When it remains chronically elevated, your body starts to shut down and not work well. For your body to remain very, very efficient, its cortisol needs to be at a healthy, moderate range, and that's what these key herbs do. That's the primary thing they do. Yeah.
On the lactate threshold side of it, do you know that the mechanism through the carnosine that it actually works through? Like, is it just more of a buffer, or does it actually increase your body's ability to turn that lactic acid back into pyruvate carbon dioxide and water so you can use it again?
The second, it actually synthesizes lactate back into fuel. So it's not a buffer. Exactly. It's not a buffer by any means. That would be, your bases and so on, as opposed to acid. It does not buffer your lactic acid. Your lactic acid is limited by how much carnosine your body has. You start to train, and your carnosine levels naturally go up to a certain level, and then they top off, and they can't go up any further. That carnosine limits how much lactic acid you can clear. The only way to increase carnosine levels further are by ingesting beta-alanine. Now, you do find carnosine supplements out in the market. We look deep into the research. Ingesting carnosine does not increase carnosine any further, which is interesting. Carnosine is limited by how much beta-alanine your body has. So you ingest beta-alanine, you can increase carnosine further. When you increase carnosine further, you can actually take that lactic acid and resynthesize it to be reused as fuel. When you do that, your lactate threshold improves. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
So you're saying it works with the lactic acid, as you just said. Does it affect the carbohydrate utilization and conversion? And if so, does it change the way athletes fuel with carbohydrates?
Not that I'm aware of. No. It works specifically on that lactate threshold mechanism. Yeah. I mean, indirectly it should, because if you got more fuel coming from lactate, there's less fuel that need to be used, but I don't think it's any significant. It's really working on that other. Every mechanism affects the other in your body, so none of them work in a silo.
It seems like the Optogen, you have two. You have the HP and the regular. What would be the difference as to what you recommend to the athlete? Because it seems like for me, the HP would be the best for everybody because it has more stuff. Why would somebody take the other one? That's number one. And number two, are there two supplements that are better combined together as far as what we refer to as stacking together that can work?
To answer your stacking question, we built a system. The best stack is to use the entire system. Okay, it was designed, there's synergies involved in the entire system of products. OptygenHP, it's the million-dollar question. Why do we buy a $200 pair of running shoes versus an $80 pair of running shoes? Everyone makes that decision, One is more of an entry-level Optygen. One is the high-end version. I agree. Why wouldn't everybody be in the HP version? Some people might choose it because the budget constraints. Some do cycle back and forth between the two products. They may have a big event in March. So January they're on Optogen, February they're on Optogen, then they move to OptygenHP. They save themselves a little bit of money. So, you know, it's the consumers will really make that decision which they want to go to. But
several of my people on metabolic coaching and cycle camp that have been taking, some have been taking Optogen for 3 or 4 months. Those who are doing the Ironman, I've got people that are just cycling on it now for cycle camp. The cycle season's coming up, and I've never had one person say I didn't feel it or it didn't make a huge, substantial difference. Everybody, yes, I felt it after a week or two, and they can describe exactly how
Just the Optogen or the Optogen?
Especially the OptygenHP, yeah. It's much stronger than the normal Optogen.
bottom line, the absolute highest quality. Again, this is critical, not only for our customers out there, for the professional athletes out there, making sure there's no banned substances. Highly, highly research-based formulas. Okay, we look deeply into the clinical research out there, and in the end, you know, our goal is none other than making the best endurance supplements in the world. That's it. That's who we want to be. We don't want to be anybody else. Our goal is to build the absolute best endurance products in the world. These athletes give us the input they need to make sure they can compete with the best people out there. That's how we build our products.